Welcome to the Crawlcast. I'm your host, George Kralzak, and today we're going to discuss what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers at the end of the season. The Jets just fired their general manager, and we're going to discuss all the possibilities of what potentially could happen to Aaron Rodgers. I've kind of laid out four possibilities that could happen. So, first off, you need to look at this season. Their season is probably over. They basically need to go 6-0 in the remaining games to make the playoffs. And their schedule is a bit tough. So it will be difficult for them to go 6-0. I think it's going to be almost impossible. Or this is who they have. They have the Seahawks, who they could beat. The Seahawks are decent. They have the Dolphins, who also could go either way. They have the Jaguars, who are terrible. They have the Rams, who are pretty good. They have the Bills, who are great, and then they have the Dolphins again, who I think the Dolphins are pretty good. So out of those games, the only really guaranteed win, it feels like, is the Jaguars. So I think their season is basically over because they need to win all those games. So since the Jets fired their head coach and general manager, they're going to need a new head coach and a new general manager. So one of the things that could happen with Aaron Rodgers is, number one, he could just retire. He says, "I'm done with football." He's getting injured. It feels like almost every game, getting hit a lot. The Jets' offensive line is not playing well, so he can just say, "Hey, I'm injured. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore." I think that's kind of unlikely because if you look at it, I don't think Aaron Rodgers wants his career to end with this kind of average season with the Jets missing all their expectations. And I don't think for legacy purposes, I don't think he wants to end his career like that. And also, you have to look at it, like, for example, Tom Brady. Tom Brady wanted to keep going, but it felt like the reason why he retired is because of his family. He wanted to be there with his kids and with his wife, who obviously ended up divorcing him. But whereas Aaron Rodgers, he has no kids, he has no wife, so there's nothing really, like, he doesn't really have anything other than football, it feels like. So I think it's very, very low possibility that he'll retire. The next option is that they could just go for it again. I think this is unlikely because I think the Jets just want a full rebuild, but it could be, hey, with new coaching and new players, maybe a better draft, they can just reload this with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and say, okay, we're going to get these new players, we're going to get this new coach, and they will turn it around, and this will lead us to a Super Bowl. I think that's certainly a possibility, but I think it's a little bit unlikely just because I think with the Jets, I think they're done with Aaron Rodgers. They're done with Aaron Rodgers' friends. They're just done with this whole experiment. I think they're like, hey, okay, we tried super hard to win this the past 2 years, and we failed. And I think we're going to acknowledge we failed, and we're just going to blow it up and start from the beginning. So I think that is a possibility, but I think it's slightly unlikely. I think it's more likely that they'll probably cut Aaron Rodgers at the end of the season. Maybe they'll trade him, but I think it's more of a possibility they're going to cut him. So my other solution is what other teams he can go to, and I have two big teams in mind that I think could use him. Number one is the Giants. They're probably going to draft a rookie quarterback, so they'd probably want the quarterback to sit and learn behind Aaron Rodgers, who can probably teach him some new things and kind of help him elevate his game to the NFL. And the Giants are not that bad of a team. They have an okay offensive line, but their defense is really good. They have Malik Nabers, who is pretty good, even though he struggles with drops occasionally. And they have Tyrone Tracy, who looks great. And I think the Giants overall are a good team, except for Daniel Jones kept holding them back constantly. And Aaron Rodgers is obviously better than Daniel Jones. So I think the Giants could be a possibility for him. And the second part is, I don't like this, but I'm going to say it because it at least makes a little sense to me. I'm a Packers fan, I'm a Packers part owner, and this pains me with all my heart, but what if he goes to the Vikings? So listen to me about this. After the end of the season, assuming Sam Darnold still keeps playing pretty well, Sam Darnold is probably going to want a huge mega contract from the Vikings. Well, the Vikings already having J.J. McCarthy and wanting him to be the future are probably just going to say, no, we don't want to give you this huge, giant contract because we still think J.J. McCarthy is going to be the future. So Sam Darnold is out of Minnesota. And then that leaves the position open for quarterback, where they look at their offense. They have Justin Jefferson, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. They have Jordan Addison, who's pretty good. They have T.J. Hawkinson, who's one of the top tight ends. They have Aaron Jones, a great running back, also a really good friend of Aaron Rodgers. And they have one of the best defenses under Brian Flores. So they are effectively one quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl, it feels like. And Aaron Rodgers has not played that bad this season. Like, he hasn't played great. He definitely isn't a top 10 quarterback this year, but he hasn't played that bad. It's just that it feels like kind of everyone around him has been terrible. And the Jets defense has been horrible. And honestly, their kicking game, I broke this down in a couple other videos where it's like, if their kickers just made their field goals, I think they're something like 7-4 or 6-4 or something like that, like, or 6-5. Like, they're definitely much better if their kicker just made their field goals. And so I think the Vikings make a lot of sense for Aaron Rodgers, and it just follows the Green Bay quarterback pattern of going to the Jets and then going to the Vikings. I hope that doesn't happen, but I is going to be very curious on what happens at the end of the season. Right now, the Jets are in their bye week, and it'll be very telling what they. I don't think they should bench Aaron Rodgers like flat out, but because if they do somehow go 6-0, they will make the playoffs. But if they lose one more game, I think they should bench Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the season so he doesn't get hurt, and then discuss, okay, do we cut him? Do we trade him? Do we try to keep this thing going? And so that it's going to be very interesting what happens to him for next year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money. I'll see you on the next one.